All right, this practice is going to get you ready for half moon. You'll want a couple blocks and a belt if you've got a yoga belt. We'll start in hands and knees, tabletop pose, and sit back to child's pose, forehead rests on the floor. Breathe in from your belly, from your nose, expanding through your ribs and your chest. Take a moment just to connect to your breath. We're going to move the breath and the body together. And with your next inhale, start to lift up into tabletop pose. Tuck your toes under, lift your hips, lift your knees, straighten your legs. Plank pose. Modified plank is knees down, so it's not quite table. Shoulders over the middle backs of your hands. So either knees down or knees up. Chest through your shoulders, gaze forward, heels lift. Squeeze your thighs. Big inhale, and then exhale back to downward facing dog. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Lift your hips here. Lift your thighs. You could lift your heels as well. Press out through your fingers. Press your arms forward. And continue that breath awareness, moving your body with your breath. So as you inhale, you can feel your expansion, and as you exhale, you can feel your contraction. And it doesn't have to be such an obvious movement like cat-cow or forward and back. It's just natural movement in your body because of your breath. Inhale, knees back to the floor. Open your chest. Exhale, round your spine, cat-cow. Inhale, extend your spine, open your chest. Exhale, round your spine. Take your chin in, head down. Inhale, one more. Open your chest. Exhale, round your spine. Stick your left leg back and turn to your right knee. Left foot flat on the floor. Lift your left arm up to the ceiling for a modified side plank. If you can, keep your right heel in line behind your knee. If balance is too unsteady, you can turn your right heel out behind you, internally rotating the right thigh. Press down into your left foot. Left toes point to the left side of your mat. Inhale, tabletop, left knee and left hand back on the floor. Open your chest. Exhale, round your spine. Back to that cat-cow. Just one round of those, and then we'll move into the other side, modified side plank. Right foot on the floor behind you. Left hand on the floor, right hand up to the ceiling. Again, you can turn the left foot behind if that helps for balance. Seal down your right foot and stretch up with your right hand. You can look up to your right fingers with your gaze. And then your inhale brings you back into table. Open your chest for one round of cat-cow. And then as you exhale, take it into downward facing dog, lifting your knees completely off the floor. And smooth your breath in and out of your nose here, opening the airways, opening your body. Next inhale, start to walk your feet up to your hands. We're going to move into a half fold. A couple blocks will be handy here, so you can grab those blocks and put them at the top of your mat and lift your chest. So you're trying to get your head about as high as your hips. Also feel where your weight is in your feet. It should be in the front end of your feet rather than the heels. Your heels aren't lifting, but you want a lot of weight in the balls of your feet. Engage your back muscles, engage your hamstring muscles, and engage your core to lengthen your spine. If the blocks seem too high or too low, adjust them until they're at a nice place where you can feel your head lifting up and lengthening out. And then you can feel your head about the same height as your hips, your pelvis. Exhale, fold into your legs. Inhale all the way up, Ardha Hastasana. Upward hand pose. Samastitihi, exhale, standing pose. We're going to move into tree pose next, Vrikshasana. If you'd like to use a chair or the wall for balance, find the wall or chair. Pull your left foot in and up to your inner right thigh, or you can take your left foot down to the calf or even your toes on the floor, heel at your ankle. You can reach your arms here and stretch up with your fingers, root down through your right heel. Draw your front ribs in so you're not hyperextending, but allow your low back to express its natural curve. And avoid over-rotating your left knee out to the side so your left glutes don't lift up higher than the right. Think about squeezing that right thigh in Hands to heart, left foot back to the floor. Take a moment in Tadasana just to root through your feet and be steady before moving on to the second side. When you're ready, right foot's going to come up. Again, you can take your heel to your ankle or your heel to the upper thigh, and then turn your heel on your leg so the inner heel points forward and your toes point back down towards the opposite heel. Reach your arms, lift your left hip bone, and squeeze those two outer hips in toward each other, especially the left hip, squeezing in. Think about hugging your thigh bones with your thigh muscles, and avoid overreaching your arms with your shoulders. All right, exhale, hands to heart, and right foot to the floor for balance. Tadasana. Sweep back up on your next inhale with your arms, or Ardha Hastasana. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward bend. Then step back with your left foot, turn your left heel down. Inhale, lift your head, open your arms, Warrior 2, Virabhadrasana B. Extend your left leg, flex your right leg, squeeze your right thighs, and squeeze your left glutes. So your right thigh muscles and the left gluteal muscles. Keep that steady breath pumping in and out. Straighten your right leg and slide your right hand down to your shin, left arm up to the ceiling. Triconos. Your right hand can come all the way down to your foot. Grab your big toe if you'd like. If you want to block beside your right foot on the outside of it, avoid leaning into your right hand and instead push the block away. And do the same thing if you're touching your hand to shin. So push your shin away with your hand and then kick back into your hand with your shin. Try to smooth out the right shoulder and the upper neck area. Press back with your left heel. Bend your right knee forward and stretch your left arm overhead. Keep the block there if it helps. We're really just going for a nice inner right thigh stretch here to prepare for half moon. So the lower to the floor you get, it's really not going to help much. Instead, we want to focus on the inner left thigh and inner right thigh lengthening out. Your gaze can move up to your left fingertips, sealing the left foot down on the floor. Exhale, hands back down to the floor, and step back with your right foot into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Big inhale here, open your chest, open your back, open your hips. And then we'll come to the top of the mat. You can step up or hop up, half lift, and then exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Step your right leg back this time, Warrior 2. Left knee bends over your ankle and your right foot is pressing back into the mat behind you. Your right heel is pressing away, so it's the farthest point behind you. Hips are pretty level here. So if you feel your left hip dropping lower than the right, try to correct that by squeezing the right glutes a little bit more and pressing the left knee forward a little bit more. Careful of not reaching your arms too high so they're not reaching too much higher than your shoulders, maybe just like an inch or so. Push into the ball of your left foot and straighten your left leg. Exhale, Trikonasana. Try to avoid letting the left knee turn in, so keep the left thigh rotating around behind you. Same for the right thigh. It's not externally rotating, it's slightly internally rotating. So the right thigh rolls down a little bit, the left thigh rolls out a little bit. And then reach up with your right hand and smooth your upper back out. Try to flatten out that upper back. Okay, bend your left knee, keep pressing into your right foot and stretch your right arm overhead. Another option for side angle here is to have your elbow on your thigh or get the block back into play here. Right arm stretches strong overhead, so it's not rainbow arching over your head. It's not an arc. It's a nice straight line from the right foot to your right hand, and then from your inner heel to the spine, to the back of your head and the crown of your head. Feel the axis here, the turning on the axis. Hands to the floor and step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And a couple breaths here to recenter. Focus on the breath moving your body. Come into plank, take your feet together, squeeze your legs together as best you can, squeeze your thighs, and then roll over to your right hand and right foot without moving your right hand. Right shoulder should be slightly behind your right wrist. So you've kind of pulled back with your feet before you turned over into side plank. You can look up to your left hand here. Try to press out through the bottom of your feet. Drive your right hip down, but lift the outer right ankle bone up. Inhale back into plank, open your chest. Then turn over to your left foot. Keep that left hand right where it is. Push the mat away with your left hand so it drives your heels back farther towards the mat behind you, almost like you can stand flat on both feet. And then again, try to drive that left hip down so it doesn't turn into a crescent moon shape. Push from your upper back down into your left hand so that when you roll over into plank, both arms are ready to go to hold your body in plank pose. Knees to the floor, hips to heels, rest your shoulders and your arms and your wrists for just a moment. All right, on your next inhale, we'll come back up into table and then up into downward facing dog. Exhale, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Another breath here, and then you'll step or hop forward up to the top of your mat in a forward bend. Exhale, Uttanasana once you get there. Ardha Hastasana, inhale, reach up nice and tall, press down through your feet, expand, open, and then release your arms, Tadasana. We'll set up for another balancing pose. Catch your breath here for just a moment. All right, next we're going to move into a standing balance, Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. Start to lift your right knee up into your chest. You can take your right hand to your right shin. You could then start to reach down for your big toe and maybe start to straighten out your right leg. As you start to straighten out your right leg, make sure your right hip doesn't lift. The left hand is on your hip just to make sure that your left hand can feel your core working. Draw your right shoulder back, press into your big toe. And then as you turn your right foot out, take your shoulder and your arm with you. Let your left hip stay pointing straight forward. Make sure your right foot is pointing straight up and out a little bit so that you're not lifting your right hip and you're rotating on the head of the femur. Squeeze your outer left thigh in. Squeeze your left glutes. Inhale, pull your right leg back into center. And release your right foot to the floor. Take a moment. Okay, so if that was really tough, you could take the right leg, knee bent, with the rotation externally rotating. So you don't have to straighten your right leg or your left leg, moving on to the left side. Grab your big toe or hand to knee. Start to maybe straighten out your left leg a little bit. You could keep the left knee bent. And as you can see here, as I do straighten my left leg, I pull that left hip down and the left shoulder back. Really engage your right glutes and your right thigh. When you do rotate your left foot out to the side, if you have to switch your hand back to your knee, do it slowly so you don't knock yourself over, and you can take it in a knee bent version instead of the straight leg version. When you do turn your left foot out, try to avoid lifting the bottom of your left hip up so the sit bone stays pointing straight down. Smooth breath, steady focus and gaze. With your next inhale, take your foot back to the front of the room. Let go of your left foot, bend your knee, and step down on the floor. And that's it. Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. From Tadasana, inhale, reach your arms, stretch out. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Take that half lift as you inhale. Step back into downward facing dog. Exhale, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Couple breaths here just to root and ground. We're going to step the right foot forward in the next breath or two. So as you're ready, right foot up to the top of your mat, left heel down. Get your block. Set out in front of you at the right corner of your mat. We're going to take triangle pose to set up half moon. So revisit Triconos, right hand on your shin, left hand up to the ceiling. In triangle pose, we want to focus on getting ready for half moon since triangle is the typical transition into half moon. So I'm going to show you here what we want to focus on with your block coming out next to the outer right foot. When you start to straighten your right leg, make sure you're externally pulling that right thigh open. Now, in half moon, it's the exact same movement. We add in that right rib section rolling through. So your right rib pulls under, your left ribs pull open. Now, when you start to place your right hand forward out in front of you, keep the right knee from turning in, keep the right thigh externally rotating. As you straighten your right leg, pull your right ribs under, your left ribs open. And I got rid of that block because it just gets in my way. So if the block is kind of messing up your balance, get rid of it. If you're not using a block, your right hand is on the floor simply for balance, not to lean into it. And in that case, lift up your back leg as high as you can feel a nice diagonal line from your head up to your heel. It will help with balance and it won't hurt your outer hip. Continue to roll those right ribs under and the left ribs open. You're opening your heart here. The symbolism of this pose is not the shape that we're mimicking in a half moon. It's the receptivity and the openness that the half moon and the moon itself resembles. So we're trying to open. Okay, you can land back down, downward facing dog, left foot, and then right foot, step back. Let's take a few moments just to cleanse that out of your mind, out of your body, downward facing dog. Okay, left foot steps forward for the second side as you're ready. Take your time. Again, we'll set up with that triangle pose first. So I'm just going to go ahead and straighten my left leg right into triangle pose. Again, I'm focusing on that left knee opening behind me. And the left ribs rolling through, chest to the ceiling. So that doesn't mean the hips need to open. So if you bend your left knee again, you can see there's an external rotation. Keep the external rotation. I like the hand on the shin for this so I can remember to keep the left thigh engaged. That also helps to keep the left knee from moving in. And then when you open back up, really focus on rotating the torso open. Take your left hand forward, find the floor or block. Externally rotate the left thigh. If you need to bend the left knee until you can find that rotation, make sure your left heel is not turning out. Turn it in slightly. So left thigh opens up, left ribs come under. You can use your hands to do this. When your right hand stretches up, try to avoid over-opening your right hip. You could always leave your right hand rest on your side. If you really feel balanced in your left foot here and your right leg is really active and lifting up, maybe your gaze comes up to your right hand so you can continue the rotation up the axis on your neck. Try to lift the right leg up a little higher. It helps with balance. And then land when you're done. Back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And again, just a couple breaths here to let go of that. Move on. Next, inhale, step or hop forward. Fold as you exhale, Uttanasana. Inhale all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana, Samastitihi. All right, so I'm going to show you some of those poses again with the belt for alignment. So grab a belt that is strapped up into a nice big loop about the size of one of your legs. You're going to step on the belt with your left foot and then step through the belt with your right leg. So the belt comes up to the top of your right thigh. Scoot your feet apart. Left heel is the farthest point behind you. Right knee is going to point forward. Right hip is going to point forward. You're going to push up into the belt as you bend your right knee for warrior two. Engage your left thigh and press back with your left heel. If you need to adjust your belt, hopefully your buckle is handy so you can just take your left hand down and adjust it if you need a longer belt. Keep lifting that right hip and pressing back through your left heel. Warrior two, giving you an idea of those level hips and the connection between your back foot and your front foot. And then I'm going to take this into Triconos and triangle pose. So again, the same idea, driving the right hip up into the belt. So you can see my belt slacked up a little bit. I'm going to take my left heel back a little bit more and actually tighten the belt. Your hips are going to rotate in this pose. They have to rotate, but they usually rotate as a result of your body moving into triangle. They don't rotate in order to move into triangle. Keep your right thigh externally rotating and your right hand on your shin. Keep pressing the right thigh up into the belt. Ah, there it is. And then feel the length. So from your back foot up to your shoulder, nice long straight diagonal line. And now I'm going to take this right into half moon. I'm going to go back and show you the standing balance pose we did. I'm kind of going out of order here, but since the belt is set up, I want you to see what half moon looks like with the belt tethered from the front of your right hip, thigh bone area, to the back foot, the left foot. So you're pushing the belt up. And this helps with balance so much. Now your gaze can probably go up to your hand. Make sure those right toes are not turning in. Land down with both hands to land gently on your left foot so when you come up, the belt doesn't pull you over. And then go ahead and step firm on that belt with your left leg. Resituate the belt on the right thigh if you need to. Lift your right knee up. We're going to move into Utthita Hasta Padangusthasana. If the belt is too short here, you might need to lengthen it out. Grab your right big toe if you can. You can keep your hand to knee. The belt connected to the foot, opposite foot, is really helping to keep the right hip from lifting in this posture. And then when you turn your foot out to the side, you can feel there's no hip lift, which is really very common to have in this pose just to make up for a lack of mobility in a certain area. All right, go ahead and step back with your left foot again, keeping the same belt set up. Get back into that side angle or into warrior two so we can move into side angle. Your belt is still at the front of the right hip, below the hip bone. Left foot presses back. You can feel your hips level, so if you need to readjust your belt length. And then slide your right hand down your right shin or your block to the outside of your right foot. Keep pressing back with your left foot to the belt so you can feel that connection between your right hip pushing up and your left foot pushing back. And then there's side angle with the belt. Okay, you can start to step forward now. Scoot your left foot in, shorten that belt a little bit more. And then we're going to move on to a different variation of warrior two. So same side, you can switch sides if you'd like. But I just want to show you a couple different options to use the belt for warrior two, triangle, and preparing for half moon. Okay, so now I've got the belt from my back foot to the front of my right shin instead of the top of my right thigh. And sometimes this just takes some messing with. You got to find the right spacing. But now you can feel the push forward, the drive forward in your right knee. And then I'm going to show you right here into side angle pose. I'm going to go in a slightly different order than we did the first setup. It's just easier since it's already there. And feel here the right hip lifting and not popping out. So each one has its benefits. Each one gives you a different energetic awareness. Oops, that one about made me fall over. But I can feel here my right sit bone is not popping out. And I'm really getting in touch with that front, that drive forward that I need. I'm going to move into triangle next. I'm going to have to shorten my belt up though, because in this triangle, instead of the belt at the top of my hip, I want the triangle or the belt at the front of my thigh. So I have to shorten the belt up a lot. And then that belt, I'm going to push it down to the top of my right thigh rather than the inner hip area. And with this setup, I can feel the right thigh is driving forward, preventing my right knee from hyperextending. And again, you can still feel the connection from the back foot to the front foot, and there's length in the right side now. So if I slide my hand down too far, my right hip's going to collapse and that belt's going to slide up. All right. And then coming out of that, you can step back and step out of the belt. Downward facing dog. Just take a moment here to stretch out. If you need longer in down dog, go ahead and hang out there for another moment or two, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the second side. You can move on to the second side when you're ready, and you can always rewind the video and check out the setup if you don't remember it. But here I'm showing you, I've got the right foot in the belt, left shin in the belt, and I'm pushing the right foot out. I'm pressing the left knee forward. I'm trying to break the strap apart. And then you feel lighter in your chest. You feel lighter in your torso. And you can see here from the back side, the hips are a little bit more level. I'm going to move into side angle right from here. Keep driving the left shin forward into your belt so that your left hip doesn't pop out. You can feel the left glutes actually work and pulling your hip under. Stretching from right foot up to right hand. Inhale back up to warrior two. And I can feel that left, I saw it. The left hip just lifted when I came back up because I had to reconnect that push forward with the left shin. Now I'm going to pull the belt up to the top of my thigh and shorten it up for my triangle pose. So I'm going to go in a slightly different order here than we did on the first side. I'm going to get the belt situated right on the top of that left thigh so I can feel the press up into it. And it feels to me like my knee is really bent. It's not bent that much. It's really just not hyperextending. And that's what we're using the belt here on the thigh for, to prevent that hyperextension, which then will help with the hips. It'll prevent them from tilting over, tilting back too much. And then there's not so much of a dump in the left side. So knee hyperextends, hip over rotate, hips over rotate, and then left side slumps down. So it's like a domino effect. Okay, I'm going to take this up into my hip crease now so I can move into my half moon shape. Coming up into the standing position, I'm making sure that my left knee is not internally rotating. It is externally rotating. I've got the belt back up in the top of my left thigh. Right foot pushing the belt up. And that right foot pushing the belt up is helping to pull the left hip back so it's not over-rotating here. And you can tighten it or loosen it as you need. There should be some resistance there. It shouldn't be a slacky belt. And then again, your left hand is at the top of your mat for balance, not for weight bearing. And it can be on a block. Okay. I'm going to come down to stand, and I'm just going to transition right into this next balancing pose. So again, going a little out of order, but you can see how they're all connected here. One helps the other. One prepares for the other. Again, I'm going to shorten my belt up a little bit, slightly higher than I need it to be. I'm going to lift my left knee up. Right foot is pushing down into the belt. And right here, I can feel my hips level. So this is a great place just to stay if you don't even want to grab your foot. It is so hard for me to do that because I'm so used to jacking my hips out to the side to get my hand to my foot. Bad habits happen in every posture and things I don't even know that are happening. Once you get your hand to your foot or hand to your knee, then you can start to externally rotate and abduct your left leg. And then you can feel your left heel turning out, and that belt is pulling that left hip down. It's not letting it go anywhere. And I've got to use my other hand for balance because, like I said, this is so hard for me. I'm so used to doing it a very certain way. And with the belt, it gets rid of those habits that I've fallen into. All right. And then step out when you're done. We're going to go ahead and cool down. So hopefully the belt helped you with some alignment tips on those postures that prepare you for half moon and for half moon itself. From standing pose, inhale, reach. Exhale, fold. Hang out here for just a moment. Shake your head out. And then we're going to take this into Molassen Garland pose, nice little squat. You can keep your feet together if that's possible. Heels do not need to be on the floor, but open your knees slightly so your ribs can just kind of rest down inside your thighs, shoulders down in front of your knees. You can use your hands or elbows on the floor or blocks. Drop your head, drop your chin. And please feel free to stay here for longer if you've got more time to be here and you just need a little bit more of a stretch there. When you're ready, step back into kneeling tabletop pose. Open your knees so that you can sit back into child's pose and stretch out the fronts of your ankles. So your ankles just did a lot of work for you. They were in dorsiflexion, working. The front shins muscles were working. So we're going to stretch those guys out here for just a moment. And again, if you've got longer that you want to stay here, you feel like your body needs another 5 breaths here, please stay. I'm going to move on to the next little counter pose, a Virasana shape, hero pose. I'm sitting on a block just because I haven't done a ton of thigh opening. We've done a ton of thigh work. So just because you can sit on the floor between your heels, maybe doesn't mean you should. So I'm sitting on a block just to make this a neutral internal thigh rotation. We've been doing a lot of external and a very subtle front shin stretch and top thigh stretch. I'm then going to move this into a twist. So I've just placed my left foot on the floor, right under the knee, and I'm going to hook with my right elbow. I prefer this little, like a C hook clasp with the hands. Right elbow just kind of hooks around the right knee, and then the left elbow is pulling away, and my fingertips are hooking each other. So there's some resistance, there's still some work, but it's also recovery from that open twist you were just in half moon and side angle and triangle. Those are all open twists, and this is a closed twist. Inhale, coming out of that twist, replace your left foot back to the floor, left knee back into hero. Pause for just a moment. And then your right foot can come to the floor. Situate your ankle right below your knee. Twisting to your right, hug with your left arm, Hook your fingers, pull your right elbow back, and a nice little inhale to lift and open your chest, and a soothing, calming exhale to soften into the twist. Try not to yank yourself into the twist. Be very gentle. Again, these are just recovery postures. And then after another breath or two here, you're ready to come out of it with an inhale. You can sit back into hero pose and you replace your right knee on the floor, right toes point back again. And you can land here for the next few moments or come into a reclining restorative position, Shavasana. End your practice with as much time as you have to rest.